Cowell grew up in abject luxury in the mean streets of Elstree. He's been a troublesome schoolboy.
He was a miserable little devil.
Novelty hitmaker.
He may have a lot of money, but he's a very dull man.
And he's the person who gave us Robson and Jerome. Cheers for that, Simon. An unlikely CV for someone who would one day become a national hero. Or is it?
Go Simon Cowell! Woo!
I think he's definitely a national treasure now.
But in 1999, such public adulation was still in Simon's future. First, we had to endure his biggest act to date. Westlife were 5 Irish lads who specialised in singing while standing still, in interesting locations.
One of Simon's great attributes is if he isn't quite the first mover in a marketplace, he'll certainly be the second. And one of the reasons that bands like Five and Westlife came along was because he didn't have Take That. And he's always been able to reinvent the next version.
I think it's got to the stage in pop where there aren't that many original ideas left. So the originality comes from either sort of combining two different types of idea or just from fine-tuning existing ideas and just kind of getting them slightly right, like you fine-tuned Boyzone to get to Westlife.
In 2000, they became the first act to match the Beatles' record of 7 consecutive number ones. Unlike the Beatles, none of them have been assassinated yet.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Simon had narrowly missed out on signing the Spice Girls, 5 sassy chicks who sold millions of records by shouting a lot and jumping on tables. So he put together his own version, Girl Thing, 5 sassy chicks who shouted a lot and jumped on tables. Is this the same video? But the world could only handle 5 annoying girls at a time.
He had a girl band which wasn't successful. He had a girl band that wasn't successful. Did I say that twice?
There's nothing like a spot of brotherly competition. But this wasn't the first time Simon's common touch hadn't quite worked. In 1992, he was asked to look after a band fronted by this guy, Ben Volpellier Piero. Crazy name, crazy hat. He was the bendy-legged, floppy-bodied singer of faintly credible pop soul act Curiosity Killed a Cat. Oh look, there's Andy Warhol. Fly tipping? He could be fined up to £50,000 for that. Or an on-the-spot fine of £75.
We shortened our name to Curiosity and ended up getting signed up with Simon Cowell at BMG.
So, did the Cats get the cream?
I've got to say though, for us, it didn't work out. So kind of, I don't know what went wrong. After we'd worked with Simon Cowell, our career ended.
Probably just coincidence. But what was he like to work with?
I don't think he was quite as,
Come on, Ben.
do you know,
That hat starved the oxygen from his brain. Simon was on top of the world. In 10 years, he'd gone from penniless sofa surfer to controlling one of the most successful bands ever, Westlife. Most people would be satisfied with that, but not Simon. He had bigger fish to fry. In a brand new TV show, Pop Stars, they wanted a piece of the Cowell, but he wasn't interested in being in front of the camera.
He said they'd asked him to be a judge, but he didn't want to be a judge. He didn't wish to be on television. So I said, why? He said, well, I don't think it's me at all.
Because of Simon's reluctance, he missed out on managing Girls Aloud. When they went straight to #1, he quickly overcame his shyness and agreed to be a judge on its next incarnation, Pop Idol. Simon was teamed with Dr. Neil Fox, who incidentally is not a real fox. Nicky Chapman, Pete Waterman, who's he? Clear off. The judges were supposed to be equal, but it soon became clear that one judge was more equal than the others.
No one gives a rat's what anyone else says. You just listen to what Simon says. Really, at the end of the day, they say their bit, and then you kind of go, now what does Simon say?
Your voice isn't even good enough for a cruise ship.
It seemed unlikely, but a millionaire from a privileged background was tuned into exactly what the people were thinking.
Simon has a very strong understanding of popular taste, and one of the great comments that I hear back from Simon is that he says exactly what everyone else is thinking.
Children's birthday parties, yes. Pop idol, no.
What everybody says is they always agree with his critique, and they'll say something along the lines of, the reason I like the show so much is because everything you say, I'm about to say myself. Has anyone ever told you that?
Good impersonation of the common man there from Simon's brother. Pop Idol had everything. Laughter, tears. Tears of laughter and great viewing figures, but it lacked something, even more Simon Cowell. He soon set about putting that right by inventing a totally new and in no way at all similar show. It was X Factor. This one had some similar elements. People singing, check. Judges, check. Simon's chest, check. But the real difference between Pop Idol and X Factor was that this time the judges had to mentor the acts they liked, and whichever act won, Simon would be there to release the records and mastermind their career. Oh, and he owned the show format as well. Clever move. Kerching. The British public were loving him, but when American Idol launched in the States, surely his put-downs would be too harsh for a politically correct American audience. Nope. It seems the Yanks love a villain with a British accent.
Last year I described someone as being the worst singer in America. I think you're possibly the worst singer in the world.
I think it's quite clever with having someone like Simon Cowell doing American Idol as the bad guy, because you know what Americans are like. They couldn't stomach it if it was one of their own slagging off their own.
I remember being in the US one day and I was walking through a shopping mall and they were lit hoardings of Simon Cowell everywhere. I just kept walking into his face.
I think people in Britain sometimes don't really understand or comprehend how famous he is in America. Probably after Barack Obama, he's the most famous bloke in the country.
With America on his side, Simon was an even bigger phenomenon than his shows. There were toys, cross-eyed waxworks, and Simon soon was in demand to sprinkle a little bit of his X Factor in the movies. In Scary Movie 3, Simon satirised his Mr. Nasty image playing himself, but not very convincingly.
I thought you were both absolutely dreadful. Ghastly.
What?
I don't know what I'm doing here. This club is totally pathetic.
Ben loves this bit. Told you. Shrek 2 included a cartoon version of Simon, where he appears to have been animated to look like himself after loads of Botox, which, of course, he hasn't had in real life.
That was the artist formerly known as Prince Charming.
I think he loves being famous. I watch him when we go out on Britain's Got Talent and 2,000 women start screaming and trying to grab him, and you can just see that he just slightly elevates himself like a peacock in full bloom, like a bird of paradise in full extension. Ah, my people.
That's a good look.
The man of the people was also becoming renowned as a man of the ladies. What do women find so attractive about this multimillionaire?
Ladies love him. You know, he's never had a problem with girls, that's for sure. And now he's rich and unfeasibly wealthy. Clearly, that's always been a magnet.
I think what most women see, and what I see, is someone who is good looking, who's made to be even better looking by his cockiness without that underlying tone of arrogance or cruelty. He's really just a cocky, confident guy who I think most of us find kind of sexy.
He has a certain sort of look that's very 70s aftershave ad man. You know, he's that kind of when men were men.
He's so butch. But it's hard work getting that toned upper body.
He's got these sort of calluses on his knuckles because he always does lots and lots of push-ups, and he does them on his knuckles, and he does them every night and every morning.
There was an American Navy SEAL on American Idol who was